Lions, 7.5-point favorite against Green Bay. No Aaron Jones for the Packers. The offense has obviously not been as good without him this year. And maybe Love will once again stink. Yeah. Pen, pencil, blood, or blank. Lions and Packers on Thursday.
I said this off air. I guess I'll just do it here. We talked about teasers a little bit more last week than before because of some of the opportunities we felt like the games presented. We didn't have to be right, but we kind of looked at the board. We're like, these make a lot of sense to us, so we're going to bet them, and they won. And I do think, and this happened, whether we won or not, this would be true, that going into the second half of the season, and especially like the final third of the season, we do know a lot about teams now. Like we do. And we've had some teams with quarterback changes, and we've had some teams with injuries, and like the Raiders fired their coach. So like it's not like everything's been exactly the same for a long time, but we do kind of know like who are our brutal offense teams, who are our close game teams, like who are the teams that really can blow out a team and win by margin, who are the teams that can't. And we do know that the teams do have some profile at this point, and I think that's actually one of the reasons why we confidently teased those sides yesterday. Honestly, is that we felt like we kind of knew what the teams were, and so we wanted to put those bets in and do that. And I think we're going to have bets like that now the rest of the season, because I think we are starting to get enough evidence to be like, I kind of know what this is supposed to be. And the market's probably pretty close on a bunch of these games. And if the market's close and we have a ton of information, now I want to tease away. And this is why early in the season, I'm always like, I don't like to do a lot of teasers early on because we don't know a lot. And maybe these spreads are all way off and we don't know how yet in terms of the difference between the teams. It's unlikely we can feel that way now. We have enough games. It's unlikely that it's like, oh, like 7.5, this should be 2. Whereas like in week 2, like we could get to now and be like, well, that should have been 2. Like that actually is what the number should have been. That's not going to happen now. So I think you can more confidently tease in some of these games. And this is one of them, because like you need the Lions to win the game basically. And they're gonna win the game. Like a lot of the time, they're gonna win. So I don't know if I want to lay the 7.5 with Detroit. I would not bet the Packers at this number. I also don't know if I would die to lay Detroit more than a touchdown. I think it's just kind of like the right number in the game in a range, 7.5 to 9.5, and anywhere in there I'm okay with. But this number, as opposed to 9.5, lets me tease the Lions. And happy Thanksgiving, because I'm really confident they're going to win the game.
If you like the Packers, I would just like bet the over in the game, or just tease Detroit and just win. Win.
Two thoughts there. One. Is there really anything about those Packers games where they've looked better? Beat the Rams when Rippon started, and that was at Lambeau Field. That was a home game. Almost beat Pittsburgh on the road, and then the Chargers. Is there anything about those games where it's like, now you're playing like an upper echelon, like tier 1 opponent? Like, does anything about those games, like think about how Tampa plays against tier 1 opponents versus how they play against everybody else. Like, is there anything about those games where it's like, yeah, this is going to be really good? Totally disagree. Like, I don't like the Packers. They can win, they can cover, you can bet them. I just don't like that side. And then the other thing is, there are teams that can play back-to-back bad games in a row. Happens all the time. The Jets offense has played like 7 bad games in a row. The Lions offense playing back-to-back home games in a row that are bad strikes me as very unlikely because they're very well coached. Like Goff, I doubt will turn the ball over that much more again. You probably get a better performance offensively from them because they're a really well-coached, really good team. Not every team I would say that about. I'd say that about them. To be fair to Washington, like I don't know if they're 11 worse than Dallas, even in Dallas. I don't know if that's true. At the same time, I mean, how many times do we have to see the same movie? Honestly, like, it's just, okay, does Washington have some of the familiar characteristics of the teams that Dallas doomsdays? They don't have all the same characteristics. Washington's quarterback is probably a lot better than some of the other quarterbacks that Dallas is doomsday. Zach Wilson, Bryce Young, Mac Jones. Like, Sam Howell's better than those guys. At the same time, offensive line has been like the linchpin for a lot of this. Carolina's offensive line, the Jets' offensive line, the Giants' offensive line, the Patriots' offensive line. Like, we get it. Now here's the most sacked quarterback. The most. So, like, I'm never betting Washington in this game. I think if you do want to bet Washington, you owe it to yourself to only parlay it with the over. It's the only way. And I think books are going to allow, it's 11 and 48.5. This isn't like 17 and 30. I think you're going to be able to put that part. Like, Dallas is going to score. They throw the ball a billion times now. They're a very efficient offense. They're really good. They're going to score a lot. Maybe Howell's awesome like he was against the Eagles. Maybe that happens. Guess what happens when that happens? The game goes over. Like Washington's defense going to hold down Dallas in this game? No way. So the game can go under. Dallas sacks Howell a bunch. They knock him out of the game. They, force the Commanders into a ton of third downs. There's ways the game goes under. It's not like, oh, well, you have to bet the over. No, but I do think if you like Washington, you just have to bet the over in the game. In fact, I might bet the over instead of betting Washington if you like Washington in the game, because that's probably going to hit more often.
So when I first saw this number last night, I was like, well, it's like I think the same reaction you had, right? It's a huge number, obviously, and like Washington's not as bad as like some
the same
of these
numbers
teams
yesterday.
that are like Yep,
and Carolina has home field. That's what we're going to argue in that game, really?
And against that, not against obviously to your point, and not against the Cowboys. So I see that and I'm like, okay, like Washington's obviously better than like Carolina, better than some of the bottom feeders in the NFL. Here's my question, and I think this is something that we might be able to apply moving forward this season, based on some of the reporting and some of the things that I've read. And look, like they could show up and it could be galvanized. They could keep the game close. They could win on Thursday. Does it feel to you at all like the wheels might be coming off like this season for Washington, and that this is going to degenerate into like new owners here? No one's going to be here next year. Like every man for himself, like bleep show. I kind of get the sense that that might be the case here, and that this could get off the rails pretty quickly for the 2023 Washington Commanders. I would never bet Washington in this game. I would only bet Dallas, just like you said, Ken.
Just to hammer this with some like actual numbers, because be like, well, you guys say this, but what supports that? With Dallas, we've gone over the results. There was actually a couple really good tweets today and a couple articles written about the last Dak pass attempt in all these games too. Like he literally in a bunch of the games, his last pass attempt was in the third quarter of like half their games this season, because they've been up by so much, and because, again, doomsday. Like we've seen this 5 times already this season. It could be another one. And to my point about Washington and the over, and I just want to be clear, like I don't like Washington in the game. If I had to bet the game, I'd bet Dallas. But like, is there a part of the side and the total that's correlated? Usually it's favorite over, dog under, with the idea in a big point spread game, the idea that like, oh, well, all the low scoring outcomes are the underdog. Like they cover all those. So like that's the correlation. Here are the Commanders. I won't even do the games against like B and C level opponents. Here are the Commanders and their defense. And remember, a lot of these games were with Sweat and Chase Young on the team. Like, here's their defense against A level opponents this year. Bills week 3, 37 allowed. Eagles week 4, 34 allowed. Eagles week 8, 38 allowed. They allowed 29 to the Seahawks. How many points did the Cowboys score in this game? What's the baseline number? 30. Like, that's the baseline number. So just like, if that's what we're working with, then how are the Commanders covering a number that doesn't go under, that goes under the total? Like that's what Dallas is going to, everyone's done that. Dallas isn't a home game. Like, and their offense is playing well. Like, I know Dak's numbers don't look great yesterday because they were up an impossibly large number of points for the entire second half of the game. Like, just like, that's what it was. It wasn't the most efficient game, but it didn't have to be. Just like Washington in the over is kind of like where it's at from a correlation standpoint. Maybe it's just the over. But I worry about what you worry about, which is just like, what is Washington doing in this game? Like, can they, like, what if this is the Giants with Daniel Jones in week 1? Howell drops back to pass 0.1 seconds. He gets clotheslined by somebody. Like, they're going to score a lot. That's it. So the correlation is Washington over. The bet in the game, I don't know, maybe LA Dallas. I don't know. Maybe it's just the right number. Maybe you bet some prop overs on Dallas's offensive players because they're, going to be awesome. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it too.
Or maybe we dust off the old monster and just and have Dallas go 3-0 out the other side to the number +2.
You could do the three team 10 is in play here, which is, you pay such a tax. But like, I mean, this past week, yesterday was a game for that.
Under 700.
Yeah, that's true too. You could. I don't know if like
under
6 you're getting the most bang for your buck. Like, I don't know if that's what it is, but to be fair, you do get 6, 7, and 10 as wins, and 8, and 9 if we're just gonna say all the numbers out loud. So like, just maybe that's it. God, it's like, here's the worst. No, this is a terrible idea. I was gonna say like tease Dallas in the over. That's a bad idea because the Commanders could get smoked in the game. They could actually not score very much, and I think Howell has a legit chance of like getting knocked out of this game. Like, yeah, that hard hit at the end zone against the Giants yesterday. I thought he had a concussion when he got back up. Like,
and he got hit like 4 times on that one play. I got to tell you, like, I wanted to like give him I wanted to give him like a pat on the back for that. I was like, man, you're one tough son of a bitch, man.
So of the 3 games so far, I actually would bet both other favorites before I'd bet this game. I think this might just be the right number in the game. I think 7's my bet. Whereas, like, I might lay Dallas and I might lay Detroit. I think this might just be the right number in the game, and I just would not have confidence in Seattle keeping a game close against like an A-level opponent.
So I guess my question would be, if Geno's definitely in, because he's not definitely in yet. Pete Carroll has said like he's on track to play. If Geno's announced in,
okay,
this comes off 7, right? Or is
probably
it 7 even with Geno?
It's 6.5, 7 on the board right now. Like there's a few 6.5s. Probably comes off 7. So if you're like the sort of like the scavenger for like the half point of CLV.
Get the notification and bet the Seahawks when Geno's announced it. And try to get 7.
But honestly, like, if it does, they're losing? Am I teasing them to win with Lions 1.5 and then having a piece of pie and having a great day?
Yeah, like is it?
Yeah,
even if it's 7, you just tease the Niners down to 1 just to win the game.
It's funny because, you know, like you think like a division game with a touchdown number and Seattle, like to your point, like they do dumb stuff. Like they're also a team that wins a lot of games every single year. Like they're not a team necessarily that we should make fun of a lot. They've had a lot of success, but this does seem like a tremendous mismatch, like as at least as much as the market indicates. Also, and this is where I kind of was going. I just stalled there for a little bit. If Geno plays, I mean, that we have to kind of have the conversation, like, if he plays, are we betting unders because he may not finish the game? He's playing with an injury on a short week. How's this supposed to go? It's supposed to go great against Bosa and Chase Young and these guys? It's supposed to go really awesome? Like, he already got knocked out of the Giants game earlier this year. Like, got knocked out of this game. I would like begin to think of him as fragile versus other starting quarterbacks. Not that, like, that's a personality flaw or, like, a character flaw. Just that, like, you take enough hits. Like, this needs to be talked about, that are we going to play unders because this may not go really well and you may not be 100% and you may try because like you're really good and you're like an awesome player. Also, it may not go great. Like if he the best case scenario here is he's announced in early in the week, which gives times for props to get posted everywhere and for us to like forget about this. And then we probably bet unders on him on Thursday. Short week with an injury against this team. Like the unders can win normally. They can also win because he doesn't finish the game. It feels like we're having the same cap of all 3 games, which is just the obliteration of the other team's quarterback. But that's kind of what these games come down to. Let's be really square. Detroit, Dallas, San Francisco, Miami, moneyline 14 parlay. Who loses?
San
Francisco. Okay,
and they
3
team. They don't lose. They win.
3 team. Detroit, Dallas, Miami. Who loses?
Your bookie.
And like, I know how that sounds. I think that's what it is this week. Like, I think that's what it is.
How about
some of these games might land around the number? They're impossibly big numbers. Yeah.
Like, how about this in honor of Thanksgiving? The 2-team Leon Lett Memorial Thanksgiving Moneyline Parlay, Dolphins and Cowboys.
Leon, but like,
I remember where I was when I watched that game. Been watching football for a long time.
And you might be like, well, like that's not going to pay great. I don't know what it pays because I haven't put it in like the apps yet. Whatever it pays, I'll be pretty confident that the likelihood that it happens is more than that price. I love that this is the conversation so far in the first hour of the show because I think these are all really likely to win. And I think I'm a fair judge of value, just to be perfectly honest. Detroit, Dallas, San Francisco, Miami together, plus 139. No 49ers, minus 127. So no 49ers would be Detroit to win, Dallas to win, Miami to win. Minus 127.
You just win. You win.
I don't even have to frame it that way. Like, yes, I agree with you that we are going to win a lot of the time. I mean, is there like a 40% chance, 45% chance that one of those teams wins in a normal NFL week? 7-point favorites, 8-point favorites, 10-point favorites. I'd be like, yeah, there probably is a chance. Like, you know, you always underrate the amount of times an upset's going to happen.
Aaron Jones isn't playing for the Packers. Like,
but it's late in the season. Like I think we know what the teams are. I actually kind of think we can confidently make these bets, and I don't make these bets like ever. And that's how this week sets up for me. I can make a case for a dog in these. Like Seattle's the one you can make the case for. They're at home. They're well coached. They possibly could be healthy in the game. We'll see. Like I understand. There's a lot of familiarity with the teams. Purdy's home road splits are not ideal. Although also they played Jacksonville 2 weeks ago. What happened? So just like, okay. What about the other three? Like, what about the other three? I don't see it. I like bad underdogs all the time. I don't see it on these. I don't see it on any of them.